Welcome to Showboys, a podcast that delves into the world of film and TV. Hosts Nick, Mike, and Cody take their water cooler talk from the office to the web as they discuss their favorite movies, shows, and all their content in between. In this week's episode, Nick and Mike discuss Amazon's new MMO New World and their experience playing its preview. Welcome to the first episode of What's Playing. So, what's New World? All right, welcome to our first ever episode of What's Playing. We decided to branch out into video games, as you know, we're all three avid gamers, I would say. But yeah, welcome. What's Playing? Before we get started, though, we have a couple announcements for you guys. So yeah, exciting stuff. We started a Facebook page finally to go along with our Instagram and Twitter. So please make sure you go to facebook.com/showboyspodcast and like the page and be sure to, leave us some messages, give us, some ideas of shows or movies or games that you enjoy that you'd like to hear us talk about. Make sure you share with your friends. We have a couple other exciting things. Nick, what else do we got?
Well, officially this week, we have uploaded our first two episodes to YouTube. And every episode we do there going forward will be on our YouTube page as well. This should be much more accessible to everybody. So hopefully that helps kind of just spread the pandemonium of how successful this is going to be.
YouTube, we're official. Yeah. Pretty soon we'll be millionaires.
Yeah, and I think that segues quickly into the next little update there.
That's right. We are going to start releasing weekly episodes. So yeah, that'll be exciting. You'll get to hear us ramble on about nonsense every week now, instead of having to wait.
Every week and potentially multiple times a week, depending on how fancy we get.
Yeah. Which brings us to our final little update here.
Oop, final update. I'll take it. So, final update is we have our first companion series, which will be running for approximately 2 months through November and December. Obviously, it's a companion series, so that gives a little bit of a hint of what it might be following along with. So, we'll leave that open-ended until the time comes.
Yeah, I think the plan there with that little series is to release those episodes alongside our already weekly episodes. So, excuse me, you'll still get the regular Showboys episodes where we, ramble on for hours about random film and show topics. But also on top of that, every week during those 2 months, you'll get that second episode that will be in line with a certain series that we might be following along with. So yeah, look out for that stuff. And as always, we're on Instagram and Twitter, so give us a follow there and share with your friends. Everything is at Showboys Podcast, so it should be nice and easy for you to find. With all that being said and out of the way, what's New World?
What is New World? Well, this was a fun game, I think, overall. Amazon Studios. I think it's their first game, correct? I didn't do any
No.
due diligence there. It's not?
No, they actually had released another game a couple months ago. Let me pull it up real quick because I can't recall the name right off the top of my head. But it is a I want to say MOBA-like arena game, multiplayer. It was in beta for a bit, and then they did the full release, and it actually was met with a lot of backlash, and like so much so that they put it back into beta. It's in an open beta now, I believe. But yeah, let me find the name of the game.
Interesting that they okay, so if their first one was a MOBA and then their second one is an MMO, that seems like a common theme there, given the most successful one ever.
Yeah, I'm just on Amazon Game Studios wiki page, which take that as you will. It says they've had games released from 2010, up to current date, but this iteration of Amazon Game Studios that did New World, the game that I was just referencing is called Crucible. It came out on May 20th of this year, and I got it wrong. It's not really a MOBA. It's a third-person shooter. It's free to play though.
Pew pew.
Yeah, so it's on Twitch. It's decently popular. A few streamers that I follow, I've seen them play it from time to time, but
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, never really tried
they
myself.
made it.
Yeah, not much of a shooter fan myself, so I haven't really given it a shot or really plan to. But yeah, kind of, not to jump ahead too far, but with some of the things that New World is going through, it kind of seems like a theme for Amazon Game Studios.
Yeah, I think they have a chance, but they're going to have to be very specific in how they market New World. And like you were saying, like in our discussions, that they have to make it clear what the intention of the game is. Because New World is an MMO, open world one at that. And people have these high expectations for MMOs, all these games. And they all kind of seem to I think they try to bite off too much. So I think it was good that they have tried to focus in on a few key elements. Even with their they're backtracking at times, or at least changing their direction.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we should let's give a little history of everything that's gone on with New World a little bit, just so we might be confusing some people. So like Nick said, New World is an open world MMO made by Amazon Game Studios, and think like if you take like the player created meta game of like EVE Online, and combine that with like the like look and not exactly look and not exactly gameplay, but of like Elder Scrolls Online / Dark Souls, and like combine them into an MMO. That's what New World kind of is. Kind of appears like, kind of plays like. But it was slated to release in May of this year. The release date got pushed back to August, which then got pushed back to spring of 2021. So much like Crucible, New World's kind of going through some confusing times. I would say mostly on the developer's part, where like you were just saying, they started out with a very specific intention of it pretty much being like solely PvP based, right?
Yeah, that was the intent. It was supposed to be this massive world very meta driven, kind of like the correlation to EVE Online, where the meta game is very important for everything.
Yeah, and
But solely focused on PvP, right?
Yeah, and the cool thing that I love about Eve, and even its like PlayStation 3 like counterpart game Dust 514, is that the meta game was 100% created by the player base. Like, it was just, guild. Well, they're called corporations in those games, but they're versions of guilds. Making alliances with other guilds and then starting wars with other guilds, and then like all the stuff that happened in the game in Eve and Dust bled over into their forums. So like even outside of the game, like the meta game was happening and being created, and like relationships were being like broken, and people were like backstabbing other people, and there was espionage, and like it was just one of the most fun gaming experiences I ever had. And when I heard the direction that New World was going in, it reminded me a lot of that, and I got super excited.
Right. And I tried to get into Eve. Never played Dust, but I did try to get into Eve probably 5 times in my life. But I think I was always overwhelmed because I understood how meta that game is, and I would have to commit all the time to it.
Yeah,
which I just never had.
I wish I did. It's often referred to as like Excel the game, Excel spreadsheet the game.
Yeah, the menu clicking is insane.
But yeah, so basically, New World, you're a I don't know, explorer, I guess would be maybe the best way to describe your character and introduction into the game. Mm-hmm. But basically you're like an explorer that is looking for this certain land or island, and you shipwreck on it, and there's other people there or whatever, and there's a lot of mystical and magical things on the island, and some sort of corruption, and you basically just are on this land and trying to figure out how to survive amongst all these other players. And the first iteration was really supposed to be like a big faction based PvP game where you pick one of 3 factions, and then within those NPC factions you can create your companies, which is this game's version of a guild, and you fight to control territory for your faction. And if your faction, I still am not super clear on what exactly the reward and incentive is for actually controlling territory in this game, but you control these territories, these cities and forts, and you quest to basically build up the city or fort, which then unlocks like better crafting stations and things of that nature.
Right. And kind of touching on the theme there, it's very 1700s ish period is kind of what they're going for, and it plays for the I think the whole notion of the Americas as they were to kind of Europe, and that time period where people were getting on boats and they're going to this new place, this new world, to make a name, make a life for themselves. So I think that's the narrative they kind of place you in at the beginning, and that's kind of what I think. It was going to be PvP with the PvE element. I think they always had that constant faction warring concept there, but they also had the kind of like, I'm thinking of like the Horde or like Onslaught kind of versions of the game where there's NPCs that are like attacking your settlements constantly.
Oh, yeah,
so like that's happening in between defending the territory.
Yeah, so not only do you have to defend your territory from other players, you have, the NPCs, sieging your forts and whatnot too, as like a PvE type event.
Yeah, and so it has the metagame of Eve. Then you mentioned Dark Souls. That's kind of the combat correlation, right?
Yeah, you got the third person, over the shoulder, action based combat
Hitbox. Yeah.
where you have the cursor, you have to like physically click to swing your weapon. You have a limited set of abilities to use as active abilities that you learn skills from your weapon, and then you can dodge
Dodge and roll.
So that's where the Elder Scrolls Online / Dark Souls like gameplay type vibe kind of comes into play. But the thing is, for some reason, the studio decided to kind of shy away from that original vision, and I believe that's probably what caused the first delay from May to August. Is that kind of what happened?
I think I think that change was even longer ago, like even perhaps a 2018, 2019 event.
Okay.
Because they've been reworking I think that for a while now, and that was kind of I think the first big bust, if you will, with just kind of like the people that were following along who had played the alphas, and they kind of made that change in direction. So, and people draw criticism of that because when you come out and say, "Hey, this is going to be like a PvP oriented game," completely, and then all of a sudden they say, "Well, actually, you're going to be able to toggle PvP on and off for your character," so that really changes, obviously, the open world experience that you get with PvP. Because we experienced that with World of Warcraft. When you're on a PvP server versus a PvE or even a blend of it, the experience is just way different. Your priorities are way different.
Yeah, for sure. But regardless, the May release date was not met, and they pushed back to August. And right around this time, summertime. I mean, we had been following the game not really from its conception, but we kind of had been loosely following the idea and the small updates that were happening. And right around June, July, I started to get really excited. Was about to pre-order, was getting super pumped. I was like, yeah, August, here we go. I'm so ready for a new MMO type game. And then
we get a preview.
Yeah, and then psych, we're pushing it back again to an undecided date in spring 2021. Which probably after playing the preview was a very wise decision, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'll see if they would have released the game when we played it, 3 weeks ago. That would have been not horrendous. It was a playable game.
Yeah.
But it was not a sustained MMO.
Yeah, and it's a little concerning considering that was the second slated release date, and with what we got in the preview, like that kind of scares me. Like, this is what we have at this point, and this is already the second time the game was supposed to be released, and this is all you have.
But chopping trees is so good in that game,
dude. We will totally get there, because I know that this beginning part, is kind of seems like a downer, but like I loved what I played in the preview, and we'll totally get to all the positives. I have a lot of positives. But while I was playing the preview, I couldn't help but think like, sheesh, man, that the game should be out right now, and this is like not like close. I think a lot of the Not a lot. All of the quests were the exact same. Go, run, loot, X number of chests to pick up X number of items, and kill like 10 of whatever mob. Then you go turn in, and then you get the same exact quest, just in a different area.
Yeah, because I watched a blogger vlog, whatever you want to call it, that the developers released, or it's the Q&A with Asmongold.
Oh yeah.
Where they were, they saw the feedback and criticism of all the quests. There's always one in every area, or most of them, or majority are go get these box crate things in these areas, and it's the same exact thing. And it was concerning to me that they were like, we see this criticism, we're gonna work to make that better. It was like, no, I mean, that should be something you should understand from the get-go.
Yeah,
you should not need that. And then the other thing on top of that concerned me, if you add it to this, is that in chat I would see people talking about, or I even think Asmongold said this, but they were like, we pointed this out last time there was a alpha play or whatever. People had pointed these things out then, and they still were not fixed. So I was like, oh, that's not good.
Now, there's two ways that this can go, right? You could sit there and think, well, it's just a preview. Maybe this, I think in the video you're referring to with the guy from the studio talking with Asmongold and some other streamer.
Mm-hmm.
He said this was like a month's old version, so we can go with like maybe they scaled back the preview because they're still working in fixing systems and things of that nature. So maybe like not all the quest types were added. They just added this, this version because it's just a preview. But on the other hand, this is the second time the game was supposed to be released, so you would think it would be more complete and have more stuff, even though it's a preview. Like there should, logically, I feel like there should be more because we keep adding development time to the game with pushing back all these release dates. Do you think there would just be more there because it's been being developed longer?
Yeah, and 2 points to that kind of realm of thought is, one, the point of a preview is to get community feedback. So you would think you would try to put as much stuff into that preview, good or bad. Like even if the system's like partially kind of broke, but it like kind of works, just put it in there. At least get a feel for like, do they like it just for, is it a good idea and it's just broken, or is it a bad idea and it's also broken kind of thing?
Yeah.
The second point is, with that, do they make a conscious decision to limit, what content they push in there? Because I was looking around the map where you have all your territories, and obviously when a faction controls a territory, the town there starts off at like a village or a hamlet, whatever they want to call it, and then you rank up the towns, and they get bigger and better to the point where they're like cities. But what I noticed when looking at the map after a week of people playing the game, and people were going very hard on this game, like there was decently leveled up people that were doing a fair amount of content, but everything was still, I think, a hamlet or whatever, which is a pretty low development.
Are you sure you're not thinking about Ashes of Creation?
No, I mean, these do, just like that, these towns do upgrade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ashes of Creation has the one where as one upgrades, nearby territories can't upgrade as much.
Yeah.
Oh, this one, they all kind of just, yeah.
We have to do like a whole other episode on Ashes of Creation, because that one.
Whew. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like this expands like the plots you can build on, the level of things. But I just noticed they all said hamlet. When
I didn't pay attention to that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I was like, I really feel like if they could go higher, people would have at least, got to whatever the next town size was.
Right. Yeah, there's
So-
there's
So
like
did they cap it, or did they just don't have it done yet?
right.
I think that's the big question that they'll never admit to.
Right. And there's like two, again, I don't want to keep saying every point of mine. There's two ways this could go. But there's two sides to the coin, right? You can make everything available, and they said also in that Asmongold video that experience gain was boosted way up because they wanted people to hit the level cap and play through the quote unquote end game or whatever. So with knowing that, and then let's say every system and available content was available in the preview, you risk the players who like no life the game in 1 week because, okay, just to be clear, the game has already been in alphas, I think plural. I don't
At least
think
two.
there has not been a beta yet, and then this preview was just they selected so many people off of the registration to be able to play the game for, I think, was it 1 week or was it like 5 days? It was some small select amount of time, and then at the end everything gets wiped, and then nothing, until either they do another preview or the beta opens or whatever. So anyways, back to my point. You run the risk of people no-lifing this game and putting 200 hours in a week into the game and playing through all of your content like before the game's even released. So then what do they do when the game's released? They're going to be, I mean, I know it gets wiped and you start over, but they've experienced everything that there is to offer. But then you run the risk of
That looks bad too.
Yeah, of the other side where you only makes certain things available and you're not really clear on that. So the player base is like me, like, this is it. This is all you got. And then you also run the risk of like not being able to appropriately test for bugs or like get player feedback on whether these systems that you might be hiding are good or not, so I don't know. But with unless you have any other things you wanted to talk about before we dig into our actual experience playing the game.
No, I think we can dive into that.
Okay, sweet. So we got to play. Oh, hit my mic. Sorry about that. So we got to play the game for a week-ish.
I think it came out to be 7 days total. You were allowed to play.
Yeah, and unfortunately, my Prime account is linked to my wife's email, so I didn't actually see the invite to the preview until like 2 days into the preview.
That explains it.
Rip. Yeah, and
also, it's like, I got my invite. Where's yours?
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, 2 days later, I was like, oh yeah, I got to check my wife's email. But yeah, so on top of that, it was also the week leading up to my vacation. So, busy around the house, trying to get ready for our trip to the beach. But the small amount of time, by small, I mean, I probably played like, 2 or 3 hours a night for, 4 or 5 days. Man, I had so much fun. It was very refreshing, coming off of, what you would call World of Warcraft. I don't even know, like, it's so garbage these days anyways. But like, I guess, yeah, my gaming history, I, grew up, my first interaction with MMOs was with World of Warcraft Burning Crusade. Well, I guess I played on a free private server of just vanilla WoW before Burning Crusade came out, that my friend ran. But then I ended up buying Burning Crusade and then played, through, halfway through Cataclysm and then stopped and then would dabble off and on. I think kind of like you did, Nick, every couple years, try an expansion, realize that Blizzard is running WoW straight into the ground, stop, come back like an expansion or two later, play for like a month or two, realize that nothing else happened, and it's just even further into the ground. And so hearing about this game got me really excited about MMOs again, and I think there's a lot of potential here. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
No, I definitely think the potential is there because World of Warcraft, obviously, I think that's probably my favorite MMO. I've never ranked them or thought about it, but yeah, it has to be. For as much as I played it back in the day, but the reason World of Warcraft just kind of reigns in its position is that it feels good, it's fun, and everything just kind of clicks. This captured some of that for me in that the movement was good, the world looked good, the combat was fun, even though I think it was probably not as developed as it could have been. But generally, just like the flow and the interaction with the world felt right. Nothing felt clunky outside of like bugs and stuff, but I think the overall vibe of the mechanics were there for me.
Yeah, it is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. Like the environment, the team, whoever built the actual world that you play in, like, deserves all the money. The environments are stunning. Like,
all the money.
Yeah. And I do like how obviously it's a different type of MMO than WoW. I mean, WoW is open world, but it very much it plays on rails, right? You have your quest lines that take you to specific areas as you level up, which this game probably does. I didn't hit the level cap, so I'm sure that as you continue to level, you're kind of led into certain areas, but you do this dungeon and then you do this raid, and then once you do that raid, you're able to do this raid and blah blah blah. What I like and what's so appealing about New World is it very much has that EVE Online Dust 514 type gameplay where it's kind of truly sandbox, and it's just kind of what the player base makes of it,
Yeah, I think it has the potential to be that, where it is very player driven. Just like, like you pointed out, there's a lack of NPCs necessarily. Like, you just have enough NPCs to make the world function, and then everything else is just like people.
Yeah, like they don't even have NPC vendors. Like, you can't sell anything to an NPC. You either post it up on the trade post, which is their version of an auction house, or you like salvage the equipment or whatever, break it down into some raw materials, or you just drop it on the ground, which another con so far is there's no player trading, which kind of is mind-blowing. But
I don't think I picked up on those two things. You can't sell items to NPCs, and there's no person trading.
Yeah. Yep. No, there's 0 NPC vendors. So, and another thing that's kind of neat about their version of an auction house, which I think Elder Scrolls Online does this, is I think the auction excuse me, holy crap. Just decided to try to swallow while I was in the middle of saying a word. I'm struggling over here.
Struggle bus.
Yeah, bro. But no, the auction house is not completely global. So that means that when you're in town A and you put something in that auction house, only people in town A will be able to see it and buy it. So
yes, yeah, that's Elder Scrolls, and a few other games I've played are like that. It's a cool concept.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Kind of has its drawbacks, but kind of adds to like the realism and immersion, or like if you're going to a little town in the 1600s, you're not gonna be able to Amazon Prime, whatever you want to you in 2 days. You're kind of at the mercy of the town you're in. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's like that game I told you about, Void Century Online, that I played 15 years ago now.
That makes you sound so old.
I know, but I just played games at a young age, I guess. But you would go port to port in your boat, but you would like show up on the docks, and there would be people posted up with their little stalls AFK, like that. You log out at your stall, and you set it up, and you log out, and then that's where your character physically is in the world. And people could just show up and buy stuff from you. And that's kind of how people traded, and people got money for the most part and got stuff moved around. And it was kind of cool because, you would go to different places, find different stuff. Different parts of the world would have different stuff because obviously people are selling one item because it's common in that region versus somewhere else. It'd be hard to get. So you had to go places to get stuff, even if you're buying it.
That's pretty cool. I like that. That's a cool concept. But that kind of like leads into the next thing that I really liked, was like the crafting and gathering and like profession, aspect of the game. The thing that I really liked is almost everything is harvestable, if that makes sense, if that's even a word. But like your gathering professions, you start out by like literally gathering wood from bushes or like small trees, or like mining a literal boulder for stones. Or like you just see like little rocks on the ground and it turns out that they're flint and you need that to like build your tools. Or for like the herbalism type gathering thing, you're like picking hemp or just like fibers, they call them. I don't remember the exact like node in the game, but it doesn't like a game like WoW where your nodes of gatherables are very, very noticeable and like glow and shimmer and stuff, so they pop out so you see them. Like they do a very good job of keeping things kind of obscure in the environment, though when you like mouse over things, like your screen is lit up with like pick this up, harvest this, chop this. But I like how you look at a rock and you're like, oh, I could probably mine that, and then you go up to it and you're like, oh, I can mine this, that's really cool. Or like in WoW, you might see like something that you might think you can mine, and then you go up to it and it's like, oh, I can't pick that flower that looks like a thing that I could make potions with, but I can't pick it. In New World, you probably can. And like any animal that you kill, you can skin, I don't know. It was the gathering is really cool. The sound effects when you're gathering stuff, like the chopping of the trees and the mining of the ore, like those two sounds, so cool. And the fact that like when you chop a tree down, it literally falls down and then like isn't there for however long the spawn time is for the next tree to grow.
Yeah, everything's fixed. Everything's fixed spawn nodes, which is nice, but it is a little bit more dynamic the way it works.
It's like visually dynamic, but like
I chop a tree, it's down until it's spawn again. Like you can't come and chop the same tree. Same thing with the mining nodes.
So you're just like running around and you just will like randomly just see trees falling over. It's like really cool.
Yeah. That was fun.
And like you're saying, when you're mining a node, like after you mine it, it's just like a pile of rubble. And like when I go up to it, it's just a pile of rubble. I can't, mine the node that you just mined. So I kind of like that aspect of it. And when you get into the crafting, like to make the tools to be able to harvest your materials, like they take materials from like almost every gathering profession. and then as you continue to make arrows or bullets for your rifle or your bow, or you're trying to make some armor or what have you, you almost will need, like guaranteed need, a material from a gathering profession that you kind of think wouldn't really be related, which is kind of cool and adds a little, again, realism and immersion into the game, where like, yeah, this sword probably has some type of grip on the handle, which is probably made of leather or cloth. So like, yeah, I guess I need some leather or cloth,
Yeah. And what you're saying about the gathering, as far as, especially with the plants, how everything can be kind of gathered. It did kind of remind me of The Witcher, Witcher 3, how gathering works there. There's just plants just everywhere, and if you're walking through or on a plant, you can just hit E and gather it. So that definitely reminded me of that, which is cool, because if you like gathering, you're just kind of running around and just gathering all of it, and you're like, I don't even know what I'm getting, but I'm gonna do something with it.
Yeah. And from playing WoW with me, you'll be like 100 yards away, like halfway through the quest, and you're like, where's Mike? And you turn around, I'm like picking flowers or whatever. So like New World was like heaven to me.
Well, I was the worst one, because you would gather, or you'd be like double gathering, and then kind of trying to follow along with the quests, reading them and stuff. Meanwhile, I got quest tracker on, I'm skipping all that, and I'm just like blowing through it.
You're like the Cody of WoW speedrun.
Yeah, he speedrun shows, and I just kind of just crank through content on those games. I don't know why. I think there's something about that is more appealing to me. But that's WoW's fault for letting me be that way.
Yeah,
not mine. There's someone else on that.
It's like relaxing, and you find like some type of Zen type state just with the repetition of speeding through the quests in WoW, and just like, oh, gotta go do this, gotta go do that. I have
it's a fulfillment of 100%ing an area.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But like, I think I want to say, I don't remember again if this is New World or Ashes of Creation, because I've kind of been following both recently, so I could be confusing the two. One of the games is not going to allow add-ons, which is, in my opinion, pretty awesome, because like you're just talking about with WoW and like Quest Tracker, which they ended up just making a feature in the game anyways. Like you kind of remove a layer of immersion. Not that like in New World I wasn't like reading every quest, but you kind of had to like skim it at least to be like, oh, that's what I got to do. Okay. Instead of just being like, oh, let's look on the mini map. Where's the yellow circle? I guess I'll go there and just start killing stuff and see if I complete this quest.
Damn right.
Which also, there's no mini map, so there's that.
Yeah, I think it is New World that won't have any add-ons, but I could see Ashes doing the same thing.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad that I didn't get a chance to really, try out any of the PvP stuff, or like the sieges and wars and stuff. I missed out on that, but yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential here.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, the biggest notch it clicked was it didn't feel wrong playing it.
Yeah.
Everything, yeah. It clicked for me. The body blocking, that's something I wanted to mention, is that at first was confusing, because I was like, is this a bug? Like, what the hell is going on? I've never played an MMO that body blocked to the extent that this does. I've played obviously like character blocking, where you can't just kind of walk through people, but when you couldn't like cast a spell or whatever, and it would just hit the back of your head, I'd be like, I have to strafe to get line of sight. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of cool. And there's a fence in my way, and you're being in a asshole position, and I gotta like, I could see that being really I mean, that's a huge like factor in PvP.
Yeah.
Everyone can't just stand there and just blast something or somebody. Everyone's got to kind of strategically hold, be in their position.
Yeah, it adds another layer of that immersion and realism.
And kind of where WoW, games like WoW too, where they kind of do other mechanics to force people into certain positions, right? To avoid AoE or whatever it might be. I mean, this game automatically forces people just to take a different position because of that alone. Not even like what's happening, enemy wise, just for the fact that, oh, there's 4 melee on that target. I have no shot unless you can kind of like just rain down fire from above.
Yeah, true. Big true. I did hear in several videos though that like the open world PvP was pretty lacking because like you could literally just run away.
Yeah, someone was saying that you're fast enough for whatever reason where if someone attacks you just run away. Problem solved.
Like if they catch up to you, like the animation of their melee swing or whatever, like they can still just run away before you hit them. So I kind of they figure out a way to like, I mean, obviously you want to be able to run away, like if you have to or like want to, but there should also be a way to where your attacker or whoever you're fleeing from can like stop you or still be able to attack you. And I mean they got to find a happy medium there, I think.
And that might be a side effect of that might just be a logistical challenge of the whole hitbox situation. And just that was and the speed thing, because there's even those times where it felt like I was faster than you for whatever reason.
That's a thing because like I think depending on the gear that you're wearing and like how much you have in your bag, like how encumbered you are, will affect your movement speed, I believe. I'm not 100% certain, but I feel like that's a thing.
Right. Yeah. So they might be just taking that a little too. I mean, it's realistic, I guess, because obviously, if someone's attacking you in real life and you're faster than them, you're good.
Right. But they have like a whole line of PvP quests, and like it kind of basically turns the PvP quests into PvE quests,
Yeah, because no one's participating.
Yeah. There was another cool aspect that I wanted to chat about, and that is being the weapons system and how New World is a classless game, and you can wear whatever armor types you want, kind of reminiscent of an Albion Online, if you've ever heard of that game, where basically whatever you equip will determine your ability set. So I believe the amount of different weapon types was pretty lacking in this. You had a hatchet, sword and shield, bow, rifle, like a fire staff and a healing staff, and then like a two-handed hammer, right? So did I miss anything there? I think I covered it all, and that's only 7 different weapon types.
Yeah, I didn't stray far from just kind of the sword and shield. I didn't even get really into the hatchet. So like bow, sword and shield. I was upset you couldn't do hatchet and shield.
Oh yeah, instead of that would
hatchets for some reason like stuck in this hybrid melee, you can throw it kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you need 2 hands to throw a one-handed hatchet. I mean,
I think you can dual wield them.
Yeah, still, I mean,
yeah, you should be able to equip a hatchet and a shield, but I get what you're saying. But then that kind of, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be able to, because with the skill, your abilities being tied to what weapon you use, I guess that would kind of be a development nightmare, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, they are stuck in just a complete development nightmare, though.
Yeah, true. But the thing that I like though is that kind of unlocks. I mean, at this point, it's not endless because there's only 7 weapon types, but it unlocks a greater, gateway of content to like progress towards, on top of all of your profession stuff and your, obvious things like level and faction standing. Uh, you can level up, any weapon that you use. And as you level it up, each weapon has three skill trees, I think. Is that correct?
2.
Okay.
2.
Regardless,
Like,
you have skill trees with each weapon, and as you level them up, you either unlock new active abilities that you can put on your hotbar, which I think you only had 3 or 4 moves.
3.
3.
3. Is it? Yeah, 3. I'll go with that.
You could, carry 2 different weapon types. And then I don't remember what level it unlocks, but eventually as you level up, you're able to switch between 3 different weapons. So, you could have your sword and shield equipped and then, switch your weapon to your hatchet, and then your ability bar changes to your hatchet abilities.
Right.
And then you can switch to whatever the third, maybe you have a healing staff and then your ability switch there.
I did like healing staff. That was well applied.
Yeah, the healing staff and the hatchet apparently were super OP. But you're able to unlock a couple, several different active abilities per tree, and then also mixed in there are passive abilities that lower cooldowns or give you a little bit more damage, or whatever you might think of in those terms. But that also is another aspect that kind of reminded me of Eve and Dust. That's how their progression system was. You picked like an armor type, and then in that armor type, you're able to use a certain set of different weapon types, and then you were able to level up those different weapon types to unlock better versions of the weapon, which would be equivalent to unlocking your different abilities in this game. But it just kind of allows you to change your play style as you go, and maybe you lose interest in something. You're like, oh well, I guess I'll try out hatchets now, and then eventually, at the cap, you're able to use 3 different weapons. So, hopefully you kind of had a variation in your leveling, so you have some different abilities to use. But what do you think about the classless system with your weapons determining your abilities and stuff?
I love that style, just because you can kind of pick up anything, and then like different situations, you can do different things. Because obviously, we're games where you pick a class, you're kind of forced to learn that class and apply it to every situation, but that this doesn't always work. And I think that is because I was primarily a warrior in World of Warcraft, and they're not excellent in every situation. And it's like really hard to play some parts of the game as a warrior unless you're like really good, which was a great thing to overcome and learn. But I think for convenience, it's nice to have that flexibility to say, oh, I'm really good at the sword and shield, but I also toy with the healing staff and the hatchet.
Yeah, well, it's just nice because like I enjoy healing in games, and leveling as like a priest or something and WoW like sucks. Well, it depends on what kind of priest you're leveling, but if you're going holy, it is atrocious and not fun. But when you're doing your dungeons or raids or whatever, I mean, I guess you're not raiding while you're leveling, but you know what I'm saying. Like when you're in that group, type content, it's a blast. Just being able to heal. But at least in New World, like, you can do both. You can, run around with your two-handed hammer, warhammer, smashing things, and then like swap over to your heal staff whenever someone joins your group if you want,
Right.
And you don't have to like have. I think another cool thing is it kind of eliminates the needs for alt characters, right? Because you can just do everything on your main character.
Yeah, the focus on one character is fun. And it kind of fixes. I think it has to do with kind of like the complete style of the game. Games like ESO and New World, just the flexibility that the games just offer in the open world too, and just like how everything flows together. More so New World than ESO, but being able to switch between whatever the situation might be, because the game is trying to be fluid through all of its different components, whether it's PvP to PvE to gathering. Whereas World of Warcraft, like you said earlier, is more linear, as in you go into a dungeon or you go into a raid. A PvP event is more structured, so those fixed classes work there, and the game's designed that way. But I've always just been a fan of just kind of do whatever you want. Skyrim is a really good example. Put so many hours into that game, your character could basically be good at everything.
Yeah.
And you're some kind of, mashed up hunter, warrior, paladin thing of dark, with, Daedric armor on.
Right. Yeah, it definitely it gives it more variety and play, and you just have more. It's never a bad thing to have more options,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, on top of that, I guess one of the last things I have is, as far as one of the things that I really enjoy and look forward to, is crafting in this game is on par or even slightly better than like gear drops, which is so cool. Like, I'm so sick of how useless professions become in these MMO games, where it's like, why do you even have this feature if it like serves no purpose?
Yeah, it's the idea of you can pour. Yeah, if you want to go out and get like gear drops, whatever that function is, right? That's gonna take a bunch of time. But if you can pour like the same amount of time into like a profession and then get the same quality or even maybe better, I think that's more rewarding. Because the trade-off there is, you're gathering, you're in town a lot, you're not really fighting necessarily in like playing those mechanics of the game. So the trade-off is, you put in that work, you get a really, badass gear or weapons that you can make.
Yeah, and it just opens up a whole avenue of different player types and play style types in MMOs to actually be relevant and feel like I don't know, maybe someone really sucks at PvP and really hates PvP type gameplay, but they like playing New World, even though New World is very heavy on PvP. For them to feel relevant, they can, if they enjoy, crafting and gathering, they can like be their company's, gear provider and actually provide them with really good and useful gear. And like those players who shy away from the PvP gameplay are still important to have and play with and like befriend and have around, because they can still they still improve the gameplay for everyone.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool once I realized when there was just nonstop gathering quests coming off those boards.
Mm-hmm.
because what I realized was, okay, I could, if you like doing that, you can do that till, you can no life that all week, and that's all you did. But if at some point, like, that meant you either upgraded the settlement to a certain point or in an area that's an enemy territory, by doing all that work, you have now made it eligible for the siege battle for your faction to take control of it.
Yeah.
So for players that like to do that and find that rewarding for whatever the reason is, I know we do.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to get on and do PvP. I don't want to get on and do quests or anything very driven. I just want to chop trees. So if I can chop all the trees, turn that in, and I made the needle move on the invasion of the next territory, that's awesome.
Yeah, you're still progressing the meta game for everyone, not just yourself. Because not only, like you're just saying, can you do that in like enemy faction territories to, make the territory vulnerable to be attacked and start war on it. You can do it in your friendly zones to level up the settlements like you're talking about, which in turn gives you higher tiered crafting tables, which allows you to be able to craft better gear. So like, I don't know. It's a really cool system, and I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out. But also with that, I kind of feel like maybe I don't know. I guess maybe now we can kind of like transition into kind of like things that maybe we want to see from the game, in the near future by release, or maybe, just whatever at some point in time. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to dabble in the wars and the sieges and stuff or hit the level cap, but I don't think there is a system like this in play yet. I don't know if there's one in plans yet. I could be totally wrong, so if I am, someone correct me. But I would like to see a little more incentive to controlling territories other than just being able to like get higher tiered crafting tables. Like, maybe, I mean, you can't do a thing like WoW did with Wintergrasp, where the territory is completely closed off to the opposing factions, because they need to be able to do the quest to make it vulnerable for attack. But if they did something like how Wintergrasp had the raid in the territory for the faction that controlled it, or the vendors. I know there's no vendors in this game, but like maybe make it to where, I don't even know how you do this, but like maybe if the Marauders control this area, they're somehow able to extract some different higher level special material for crafting, or something like that, to where like there's more incentive, that there's something. I mean, of course, higher level crafting stuff is really good, but like something really special to like really incentivize people to take over territories and then defend them. I think
what they could introduce there, on top of just endlessly better materials, better stuff, is maybe if you're like the dominant faction and you have some really big towns leveled up and everything like that, you're going to have a greater PvE opposition. So maybe those invasions get super intense on the PvE level, and there's some sort of kickback on that, but obviously better rewards from it. So say you own a bunch of territory, you're obviously a huge threat or opponent to that PvE, and they start sending just like the gnarly bosses after you, and you're getting that really good loot. So that would be one driving factor of saying, we want, I don't want to just say they should do the whole WoW thing where an item can, what was that, reforging or whatever they did, where basically it's just the same stuff, just like better stats. Not
Oh,
necessarily something
the
like that.
Titan forging thing.
Yeah, whatever they did there.
I just puked a little in my mouth.
Yeah, not necessarily do that, but just something that allows that to scale up. And I don't know what the cap is there, because there has to be something to balance it. Because my fear would be what happens in the event that someone controls every single territory.
Yeah, but I think you're gonna. I mean, balance wise, I don't know. I mean, the way they have it now is probably the best way to avoid what you're talking about. But even so, you're still gonna have a dominant faction, or you know what I mean? Because like even in our playtime, we joined, I believe it was the Marauders, and they were green colored, and you'd open the map and like 90% of it was purple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Covenant was yellow. Purple was the Syndicate, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, I would just like to see some kind of greater incentive, and also so like again, another comparison I see with Eve and Dust. Well, I should say Dust because I didn't really play Eve. I played Dust. But in Dust 514, you had, I believe there are 3 or 4 NPC factions that you would pick when you created your character that were almost like races or whatever. And then you create your character, and then you could join corporations, with anyone. Doesn't matter what your faction is. You can join guilds with anyone. But the territory control in Dust was all guild controlled and not faction controlled. So what that opened up metagame wise was there were corporations that were very, very small but very, very rich. So they would, for whatever reason, well, I know why, because when you controlled territory in Dust, every day that you controlled it, you got paid depending on like how many clones you had on the planet you're controlling or whatever. You would get paid a certain amount. So when you got something, you really wanted to hold on to it because your guild got paid, and then from there the guilds could pay their players with their in-game money or whatever. So you would have corporations that just like to PvP, so they would try to take territories and hold territories or whatever. But then you'd have like guilds that only, they didn't want to control stuff. They were basically like mercenary guilds, and other guilds either that weren't that skilled or had too many districts to defend or whatever, or wanted to just launch an all-out like attack on a certain guild or alliance or whatever. They would hire these mercenary guilds to just go and fight their 30-minute matches or hour-long matches, however long it took to take these planets. They would just hire these mercenary guilds, pay them a bunch of money. They would take them and then transfer them to the guild that paid them the money. So like you'd have these like really gnarly, really skilled players in these mercenary guilds just go and just decimate these battles and take over these planets and then just sell them to people. It was super cool. Like there was just so many different gameplay options. And I say all that to say like I think it would be kind of cool to take a similar approach here in New World, where instead of faction-based territory control, you still have the factions for lore purposes or whatever, and people can still join whatever faction they want, but maybe the territory control is guild specific instead of faction specific.
Well, I think I think the point there is, and this is what Eve did so well and just allowed people to do it, is really bring that human factor, the unpredictability, and just the dynamics of just human nature. Just the fact that an entire corporation could in theory be the biggest one in that game, but it can get infiltrated and have traitors on the inside, and they would just dissolve it, sell it, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that's those stories where people, they would meet physically in locations and like plot against the game.
You can find, like, you can Google articles of like of corporation espionage, and like they have some kind of like conversion formula to where they can like they always make these things where like, oh, such and such $100,000 ship in EVE Online was destroyed in this one battle, comparatively with how much it cost in game, and blah blah blah. Somehow figure out how much like actual money it would cost.
Right.
But like, yeah, that was one of the like main like alluring things about that whole world of EVE and Dust is that espionage, where like you could send spies into other corporations for you, and they would like slowly work their way up the corporation ladder to where they're like in a position of officer, or maybe eventually they like somehow get like their guild leaders were called CEOs actually, because corporation. But they would become CEO of a corporation or whatever and like disband it or like take all of the money from the corp and just leave. Like, it just added that layer of metagame that like the developers didn't have to worry about, because it was all just player driven and created, which was so fun.
Yeah, so I think if in New World, what they could do and what they probably need to do to alleviate any sort of weird, undersight in those mechanics is to branch away from the 3 factions and somehow add that, human element to the game.
Yeah. Yeah, for
now,
sure.
I could see this, and this would be cool too, is if in the case that, I don't know what they have figured out what happens, but if the, one of those invasions just like wipes you out, do you just lose the territory? I think that would be important. So obviously, if you just got so big, eventually the invasion is just so hard, it's going to wipe you out. So it's almost that inevitableness of we're going to get our shit kicked in at some point.
Right. And I think that was kind of one of the balancing factors in Dust and EVE is like it didn't really completely stop it, because I remember at one point like one corporation or one alliance owned like 90% of the controllable territory. But like the idea is like at some point a guild is going to get like, they're going to acquire too much territory to defend based on how many people they have, So like the thought there is like a single guild couldn't control the entire area, because it would be impossible for them to defend everything, because there's not enough people, right? So they're going to lose something. But I don't know how you would balance that, even faction wise, as opposed to guild specific in New World. But I mean, at this point, controlling the territories isn't like a game breaking thing if like all the territories are controlled by one, because it's not like as a member of a different faction you're locked out of that territory. You can still go into the town, you can still quest in the area, and everything you do is progressing an eventual war for that territory. So
that said, I think something they should add then is the ability, I wouldn't say just do it on a whim, but there's some sort of mechanic that lets you switch factions.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to just show up to a server and it's 98% the syndicate. Because it would be cool somehow there was some reason, something that caused people to be like, I actually don't want to be part of this faction. I want to build up this other faction so they can at least try to take some territory.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, other than that, as far as things I would love to like really see in New World, I mean, that's like the big thing right now at this point. But some variety in questing would be cool. Maybe I don't know if they have instance content. I think everything like I think there's some semblance of like world bosses, though I don't think they're anything too crazy.
Yeah,
but
I'm
some
not
type
aware
of
of any of that.
instanced dungeon or group material would be cool. Yeah. Do you have anything that jumps out that you would love to see in this game?
I think unfortunately there's enough not done, or I just didn't see enough to be wanting anything more than just a more polished, more filled up version of what they have. So I really liked everything that was there. And, I was pretty satisfied with the mechanics and features that they presented. It was just all of it was lacking. Obviously, more quests, like you said. I wanted to see more of how the towns get built up. So I think they have a lot there covered. I think the weak points are just the lacking of depth of all that stuff or quantity, and then the build up and cycle of end game.
Yeah.
So, it would be cool to see. I mean, this is probably it would be cool to see because they have those fortresses, and that's where the battles take place. For you, defending a territory or attacking a territory in PvP. I'm not sure if that's where the PvE stuff takes place, but it would be cool to see a PvP PvE defense attack situation where there's a siege going on and someone's trying to take over a territory, you're defending it, and the PvP invasion thing just starts, or the PvE invasion starts, and then
that would be nuts.
I don't know if that just like wrecks
just
the attackers. It also wrecks. Yeah, it's just, and it's almost like you're flipping a coin at that point. However, you come out on top in that battle.
Yeah, that would feel pretty bad though. Honestly, if you're like attacking and then you just RNG randomly get the the same time corruption invasion, and you're just like, well, this sucks.
I mean, as a defender, you got to account for that, and as an attacker, I mean, you got to account for that. Maybe there's a backline that's like, okay, we'll be on watch.
Yeah, that would be interesting for sure. Yeah, I don't know if. Oh man, I feel like I had something right there, right at the tip
One
of the tongue.
One important thing to note though is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it's like $40. Buy it and you're in it, no subscription, and then there might be like a premium reason to pay, but I'm pretty sure you just buy it and then you play.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I know it's $40 for sure, and then there's like a deluxe edition that's 50 or 60 or something. But as far as I know, I don't think there's any subscription. And I would not be surprised if there was a subscription that it would just be covered in your Prime, if you have Amazon Prime, because it's an Amazon game.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there is a subscription, but I could be wrong. Maybe I should Google it real quick. New World sub.
But yeah, overall, I mean, it's a promising game. It has cool features and tries to bring something new. But like I said before, they just have to keep focus on what that is they want to do.
Yeah. I think there's the foundation is there, really. They have a lot of really cool ideas and systems to build off of. It's just, can they stay focused on what their vision is, while also being mindful of the feedback that they're getting. I say that because like you'd hate to see a situation like any of the DC movies, not to go back to movies while we're talking about video games, but like
it all applies.
WB being spineless and changing everything at any complaint that any fan might have, whether it's founded on actual reason or completely illogical. Being able to like take your feedback and be like, Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's this way intentionally for a reason because we're trying to accomplish this, as opposed to like, oh, I see what you're saying. That's actually bad. We should fix that. But it's still like is in line with our vision. You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. And I think you made that point differently before, offline, as far as, there were people complaining about things, but it was because they were thinking it was World of Warcraft or something else.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I- you have to have that mindset when you go into anything, not just like
Right.
a video game or a movie or a show, but like you have to look at what it's trying to be, and then you can't compare it to something that's something completely different.
Yeah.
Like
Something that it's just not.
yeah, I would say if you ever want to try New World whenever it comes out, or you get into the beta or whatever, like do not expect a World of Warcraft because you will be severely disappointed. It is not that type of game.
Yeah, it's ESO, Dark Souls, Sprinkle, Witcher, Eve, Dust, not World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but even then, like if you go in expecting ESO, you're probably going to be disappointed and think the game sucks because it's not even really like that.
Well,
So
well,
like, what were you going to say there?
I was gonna say the problem with ESO is I go into it thinking I'm gonna play Skyrim, but online,
Yeah,
and it's not. So
yeah. After all this, at the end of the day, the TLDR for me is I enjoyed it, and I'm really excited for it to come out, especially after playing the preview. Um, yeah, I just hope that it doesn't get delayed anymore, and that in this time they're able to, polish it up a little bit. But even so, like when it releases, realizing that it's an MMO, so MMOs are never finished products. They're always building and developing and releasing and expanding. So like I mean, I'm sure I never played vanilla WoW, from the beginning, but from when I started playing it to where it is now, it is, it's changed a lot, some for the better, some for the worse. And so I know when New World releases, whatever it releases as, it's going to go through the typical MMO development. There will be changes, hopefully most for the better. And I don't know, I'm just really excited to play.
yeah, I feel the same. I mean, if it's $40 and there's some sort of benefit, especially with a Prime account, I'll definitely play it. The non-subscription thing's really appealing, and I mean, MMOs have been tried by a lot of people. So if anyone has like the resources, money to make one good, because apparently it takes a lot to, a lot of development to make these things good because everyone's struggling to get that part right, which is the most important part. You think Amazon can pull it off.
Yeah,
And their studio looks cool. I don't know if it's a stage and it's a set piece, but their studio has got the right vibe to it.
Nice. Yeah, it does look very cool. But yeah, definitely. If I had to place, my life in any developer's hands developing an MMO, whether or not they have the resources to accomplish their goal and vision, it would definitely be Amazon. So they print their own money, basically.
Money
Funding,
printer go burr.
yeah, funding should not ever be the issue for this game. But yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to say? I think I'm pretty much got everything out that I needed to get out.
Yeah, no, that's New World.
That's New World,
It's got the right feel to it. It's promising, and I hope to play it someday. I don't want them to rush it though. I don't want them to think that. I don't want them to get down on themselves because people are pissed that it's been delayed 2 years or whatever, and they're having issues. I'd rather them just wait another 2 years, and pump out something good.
Yeah, but let's not go all Star Citizen.
Well, that's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, But
that
hey,
game might just be a fire festival situation too.
yeah, it is. It's the video game Fire Festival.
Yeah,
Straight up. If you have no idea what that is, please Google it. Fire Festival and Star Citizen.
Netflix.
They should do a Star Citizen documentary for sure.
When it implodes and like it turns out that dude he's just been collecting those $250 ships people buy. Get this ship that we mocked up. $250. You get it when you start, but we're never gonna start. Joke's on you.
Yeah. Yep. But hey, first episode of that's playing in the books.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was a decent one. Maybe we'll do. Well, if we ever get to play Ashes of Creation next year.
Yeah, for sure. When I'm like 50, when that game finally comes out.
Those be able to download our person into the game at that point, and we just leave reality.
Oh, that Black Mirror episode. Oh man, what is the name? The one. Do you watch Black Mirror?
I've seen hit and miss ones.
Did you see the Star Trek kind of one? Oh,
no.
Well, basically,
what guy episode is it?
It's in one of the newer seasons, but I can't recall the name. But basically, the guy's able to download his consciousness into this game that is pretty much Star Trek, and then Black Mirror things happen. But yeah, that's what made me think of. But yeah, if you liked this What's Playing episode and you want to hear us talk about other video game type stuff, just leave us a comment on our Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram at
YouTube
Boys Podcast. Check out this episode on YouTube. But I guess that would be hard if you're listening to it on something else already and you made it this far. What the heck? Go watch it on YouTube too. Leave a comment. Share. Like if you like it.
And get ready for those Facebook page invite spam. It's just going to come.
It won't stop.
Nope.
All right. We're out.
Peace.
Bye, Craig.
Yeah, bye, Craig.